Recording.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Park and Recreation Commission meeting of March 8th, 2021. This open meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, to suspend public gatherings and as such suspend the open meeting requirement. For this meeting, the Park and Rec Commission is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware others may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. So thank you, everyone, and welcome to our meeting of March 8th, 2021. And I guess we've been meeting by Zoom for something close to a year now. So there you go. Okay, do we have any members of the public or any guests attending our meeting? No.
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Then why don't we go right into the director's report, Stacy, if you would be so kind.
I shall.
Thank you.
So winter programming is coming to an end, and we are looking forward to spring and summer. Right now, it's a push for outdoor spring programs. Let's see. Fields and permitting, island lighting was out. That did not get updated, but they were out, and the lights that could be fixed were fixed. The lights that could not be fixed, we are waiting on a quote. Kristen, have we received a quote? We got a quote.
No quote yet. They are
Cool.
probably going to give us a couple different ones talking about converting those lights to LED versus the ballast light bulb situation we have that is from several years ago. That would also help with Needham's green initiative. So I think we're waiting on both sets of quotes.
So can you give us an idea of how many lights? Is it half?
Yes, Cindy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Kristen, you're muted.
Kristen, I could hear Kristen and she couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
Huh. How many lights? Is it half the lights? A quarter of the?
Probably close to half. There's probably some lights that were replaced on each pole, and then some that were just corroded beyond recognition. So we would have to replace them anyway. And so if we're going to do this, we might as well see what the cost would be to convert them to all LED.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen still can't hear us. I can see.
I can now. I have
okay.
no idea what happened. Like at all. There's just like nothing.
It was a ghost, obviously. Okay.
Okay.
We did get some pictures. We did post them up on social media. So that's that. We will keep you posted once we get those quotes. The Field Summit is officially and finally stamped in ink. Going to be March 22nd from 6 to 7. And the field and special events are still online and available for permit request. Once again, permit request does not mean a permit approved.
Okay.
Are we closer to knowing when the permits will be granted? We're still waiting on the health department, or what are we?
So we're waiting on the health department. We're still, the 22nd coincides with Baker's next guidelines and next phased reopening. So we're pouring through that. And also we just don't know when the fields are going to open yet. We just are watching the thaw, watching the grasses, watching what we can. So that, but we are sifting through them this week. We're just looking through, see where the overlap is. I'll be reaching out to different groups where there is overlap, where I'm going to say to one group, nope. And if they want to figure out on their own, they can do that. But right now is the joy of organizing that spreadsheet that has a lot of colors in it. A lot of colors. It's very organized, but there's a lot of overlap, especially with some additional teams requesting additional sports requesting space that they wouldn't typically request this year, and fall 2 coming at this point. So we are working on it. The turf looks good down at DeFazio. I was there this weekend. I did talk to 3 different groups that were, just a drop-in group, definitely just the neighborhood kids. And I said something along the lines of course you are, but just so you know, if you ever want to use this as an organized group, it is a permitted space. You have to do this, you have to do that. And all of our fields are not open right now. They assured me up and down that they were just a neighborhood drop-in group. So there's that. The track is looking pretty good. I had my kids running on it. I pretended to chase them. They ran away from me. It was a win-win. And it looks, it's clear. It's ready to go. They've already got the high jump mats out there on the end of the track. And they're ready to go. We will have to patch it. I don't know when we're going to patch it now, but we're going to have to patch it at some point. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Do you mean patch it in addition before we even do the resurfacing? Are you talking about?
Yeah, so there's some patching that we got a quote for from Eddie. There's some, it's mostly where the starting blocks are. There's a couple of other places where it's very, very thin, and it can be like, it essentially becomes a tripping hazard because it's no longer a flat surface as far as the track goes. So we already have a quote. We already thought we were going to do that before we ended up with fall 2. So we'll have to coordinate with the team. It's not a ton of time, the turnaround of about a curing, but of course it has to be the right temperature out for the right amount of time without any rain. So in New England, that's very easy to predict. So once we predict that, we will let you know. And we'll let all user groups know. And obviously we'll try and work around any big track meets or programs or whatever we can. Playgrounds, there's nothing formal to report other than as the snow and ice begins to melt off of them, we are going to look at the items that are in the safety concern zone and start to pull them out. If they are recommended to be pulled out or secured in a different way, we will start doing those things. I sent Eddie, I need to get Eddie the hard copy report because his computer is old. Download the link for whatever reason. So we'll get him I sent the playground assessment around to the powers that be, DPW, town management, and you guys. So now everybody's had a chance to look at them. And Eddie and I are going to talk about which places, like if anything needs to be removed, where we're going to go first, how we're going to attack it, that kind of thing. Most of that will have to be done on DPW overtime. That's just what it is. I'll skip over CPC. I should put you last, Chris. So, assistant director position, the interviews, very smooth process of setting up Zooms and interviewing people. Last Tuesday and Thursday, we do have another set of first round tomorrow and I believe Friday off the top of my head. That will be 10 people in total. And then once we narrow it down, we'll move on to the second round, which I know at least one person is interested, but I would personally like to have one of you involved in the second and third rounds. It can be the same person. It can be a different person. But we went from 118 to 12, and then we bumped down to 10, and that's where we're at now.
Okay, and Stacy, who's doing that interviewing with you?
For the first round, it's a speed round, I affectionately like to call it. It's 10 to 15 minute, 5-question interviews. It's myself, Cindy Roy Gonzalez, who is our public information officer, and Tatiana Swanson, who is our procurement officer. So the 3 of us have been doing Zoom interviews.
Okay. And how do you feel about the quality of the people?
Good. We have some strong candidates. It wasn't easy to narrow it down all the way down to 12 to 10. But I think we've got a good group.
Okay, I would try, I would like to be involved. I would, unless there are other commissioners, I would be happy to give my spot up. I don't know if anyone else is interested and would be available.
I would be interested too, but I mean, if you want to keep the same person consistent between both rounds, I would definitely yield it to Cindy, but if you want to mix it up, I have no problem throwing my name into.
Personally, I like to jostle around a few people because I think it gets different personalities in the room with these people. And I try to put in a different mix of people that this person may be working closely with.
Mhm. Okay, well, if there are any other commissioners who would be involved, please, feel free to raise your hand or contact Stacy or me and, but when we hired Stacy, Chris and I think we were together. Is that right, Chris? We were both involved.
Congratulations.
We were, yes, we were for the rounds. That is correct.
And a stellar job we did, right?
I think
I
it's
want
been,
to brag, but yeah.
yeah. No, I would be interested in being involved. It's just too difficult, I think, with my schedule. I think last time they booked it like 2 days before and it was a full morning of interviews, and it's just too challenging to anticipate when it's happening. So, and for me, to
And Michelle, to be fair, I do anticipate it being a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they'll last, but it will be a quick turnaround just because we're trying to just speed through and not give people like that week in between.
Right.
But I can throw it out there when it is scheduled, and if there's availability, at least you guys can fight amongst yourselves who wants to hang out with me for whatever morning/afternoon this will be.
that would be great if you don't mind keeping me in the loop, but I guess don't count on me, maybe.
Yeah, I'll send it to the three of you or anybody that's interested, and then you guys can let me know who wants to take second round.
And I can usually set aside the time to do that as well. So
I'll just send it to all of you.
yeah, happy to help out on that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I would love for it to be someone besides me and maybe Chris, since we have already done it a couple of times, but we'll do whatever people are able to do. So thank you.
Yeah.
And we know that Chris's judgment of character isn't that great, so somebody else should be involved.
Oh. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't know.
And
You just
then the
threw-
only other
Bruce, you
thing
just
on my
threw
report
everybody
is
under the bus on that one.
It's
um,
okay. The truth hurts.
and the only other thing is CPC. And oh, Chris, this is you.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull over my screen here. I'm going to go through each one just really quickly, and then we can discuss where the issues lie.
Mr. Brewster, can I just make a request that you adjust your camera angle? We're getting like there we go. Now we can see your face. Thank you.
All right, so just quickly, the first one we have up is the Emery Grover renovation. Just an update on that one is the CPC is deciding how much money they should give towards the renovation of the project. Is it a percentage? Is it a certain flat fee? Whatever it might be. So those are the talks in regards to Emery Grover. The preservation of the town marriage records, a non-issue. Don't see anything with that not going through. The town common historic redesign and beautification, again, great job by Eddie, great presentation, and don't see any issues rising with that one. The Fisher Street Trailhead, again, no issues. It's relatively saying short money, so it's not really a big issue on that one. The next one up is the resurfacing of the synthetic track at DeFazio. Again, everyone knows the deal. It was off. It was on last year. It's going back on this year. There was a slight increase because of the damage that was kept on being done, but again, no one sees an issue with this not going through. McLeod, Eddie did a great job talking to the proponent being Artie Crocker and turned this thing around where we thought it might be kind of on its last legs, that the whole committee is pretty much convinced that this is a worthwhile project to do, and Stacy's raising her hand.
I am. I'm going to share my screen. You guys see that?
Yes. Is that the one that you put your kids in?
Yes.
Hold, please. Why is she not showing up? There she is. There's one.
So funny.
And this is all three of them. So it is a decent sized sinkhole. I could actually lay down in that sinkhole pretty easily, but
Mm.
I
And
got
this
these
is-
munchkins to show the depth.
This
Yeah.
was one of the major issues that a lot of the CPC members thought this was just more of a drainage issue and should be taken care of by the town. But Eddie was very proactive, and he did say when he originally pitched the idea, he was going at it from the wrong direction. He was emphasizing the drainage and should have emphasized the drainage plus all the extras that we want to do of redoing the field. But to see that hole right there, that's a safety hazard. We can't open that field with something like that. So we would have to take that field offline. So it just kind of stressed the importance. The other thing, I know people heard what happened on Friday with the public safety building, how a gentleman fell 20 feet, that they had to airlift him from DeFazio. They couldn't land at McLeod. They had to land on the turf. So to have this field offline, not that saying we have a lot of med flights come in there, but I wouldn't want to give that answer of, I'm sorry, you can't land here and take someone to the hospital because the field isn't worthy of a helicopter landing on it. So, I mean, again, it's turned around where we thought it was kind of on the last legs that it might not go through. With the conversation we had at the last meeting, that is complete 180 and going in the right direction. Any questions?
No, that's great. Stacy, I
Okay.
did pass it along to Mo Handel, who sent back like, oh my. So he has seen them, and hopefully the rest of the CPC and the Board of Selectmen will see those pictures, because that was pretty incredible.
Mhm. And there's two of them,
Uh,
right? There's not just one hole, there's two, right?
There's another one that's a little bit off to the left of it
Okay.
from the angle I was at, but only one of my kids could fit in there, so
Oh.
it wasn't as big.
Show the big one. That's right.
McLeod is offline currently
It's
and
gonna
for
stay
the
off until.
foreseeable future.
Okay. The last few, I'm going to skip over two just because I'm going to put them together, but the trail identification, again, very easy, short money. The purchase of land, which is just a placeholder we put in. And the other one that we included this year is an increase in the affordable housing bucket contribution that we decided to do 11%, what we've been doing in the past. Going forward, we're actually going to contribute 22% into the housing bucket. But the two that I skipped over are now where technically we have issues, is the Walker Pond improvements, that there are members of the CPC that think this is more of an infrastructure problem than a CPC funded problem. So it is still going to stay on the warrant, but there's going to be a suggestion made to lower the amount of what should be contributed to the association or to the project. I mean, I don't have an exact figure, but it's going to be suggested not to be the whole $125,000 that they're requesting. And I know it's going to be brought up tomorrow night because actually Peter Pignator, who is the chair, and Artie Crocker, the vice chair of the CPC, will be meeting with the select board tomorrow night. And this will be one of the issues that will be brought up. The only other one that was on there is also the Trown Reservoir sediment removal. That is running into some obstacles also, that they think it is more of a drainage issue and a DPW issue than it is a CPC funded issue. So that will go into debate. As Stacy put there, we have our public meeting on the 17th of March. After that meeting, we will decide which ones are going to go forward onto the town warrant and which ones will be edited, if I can say that. I mean, I think they're all going to go on, but it's going to be, some of them are going to have severely different amount of money than what was requested. Mr. Toolin, I see you have a question.
Indeed, two, actually. Well,
Yay,
they're
two.
related.
Get my pen.
What, and I think you may have covered this in a past meeting, but I mean, CPC funds paid for the Rosemary dredging. Why wouldn't we do the same thing for the reservoir and or Walker Pond?
As it was explained to me, the reason why Rosemary was covered under CPC because of the inlets that were going into Rosemary were already clean. It was just Rosemary itself, which was dirty. The reservoir is, there are certain members of the CPC that think that we shouldn't have to clean the inlets, being that 48-inch drain pipe that comes from McLeod that goes into the reservoir. They think that should be cleaned first before they do the sediment removal at the reservoir.
And
Does
the
that make
same,
sense?
but yeah, I
It-
understand I understand where their argument is. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily say I would agree with it, but
Oh, I don't agree.
because
Don't worry.
I know you don't. I'm not worried about disagreeing with you either. Um, but it just seems, I mean, is there any evidence from our environmental team that that sediment isn't all coming from that drainage and that that sediment has been pre-existing or was there beforehand?
I would say there is some of that in there, but I would have to defer to like Conservation Committee or Tony Delgazo of, out of the percentage, what was already there and then what was added once the drain pipe went in. I can't give an exact figure on that or percentage.
Yeah, and then similarly for Walker Pond, what's
Mhm.
I mean, I would think it's the same issue. I mean, we have I mean, all three of these are an environmental issue,
Hmm.
right? In a recreational area. I'm just, I can see their logic on the reservoir, but what's their logic on the Walker?
Ooh, Kristen, you could probably word it a little bit better than I can because you take the notes. Would you mind giving us a Cliff Note version or answer to that, if you don't mind?
It'd be my ultimate pleasure. So the current project, Category 1 for Walker Pond, I believe, is mostly to do with the stormwater drainage still. And the big hurdle between what happened at Rosemary and what has been funded by CPC in the past and the two projects that are on the table today are that it makes no sense to spend money in cleaning up the body of water until the inputs are solved, right? Because then you're just cleaning up a dirty situation to then have it become more dirty because the water going in is not clean still. And the town previous to the Rosemary project, worked it out so that the inputs themselves were not funded by CPC. So stormwater drainage is not a CPC eligible thing. Fixing open spaces. So the water at Walker Pond and the water within Walker Pond, the sediment within the reservoir are all completely valid, which is why they were found eligible to begin with. The systems and where they are in terms of the project are what everyone is questioning because the town did remedy the inputs to Rosemary prior to coming to CPC to preserve the open space of the Rosemary Lake.
So another way to say what you were saying and Chris said, but is that they're really deferring spending the money now until those inputs are fixed versus saying no. They're saying, let's wait until we fix the problem systemically. And then, yes, we agree that that fits within the purview. But right now, yeah, we're just wasting good money after bad because it's just going to get dirty again.
But the important thing, Matt, is there's no commitment to do the project. Because as you know, it will have to come up again next year and it will be stacked up against any other project that gets submitted to CPC. And you don't know that it will rise to the top, right? As with any other project. So what the CPC is saying is that anything to do with infrastructure, that's what they're calling it, should not be funded by CPC. And they don't believe it's eligible for CPC funding. And therefore they will only fund things that are not infrastructure. So in this project, this first phase of 125,000, there's 43,000 for 3 6-foot diameter manholes. And they're saying that's not CPC. We shouldn't have to pay for that. We shouldn't have to fund that. I don't know why they wouldn't pay for the rest of the stuff in here, but they won't do it until that first piece is done anyway.
Right.
So they may fund a very small amount of that 125 and say, come back to us next year for the next phase, which is 356,000. The neighbors are pretty upset. I spent some time talking to one of the neighbors, I think Chris, and I don't know how many he's talked to. And I also talked to Mo and I talked to Matt Borelli. They feel like we brought this up, for the last 2 years and we were told this was the best way to go. and now you're changing the rules on us at the last, and the project hasn't changed. So they do have a point. So I told them that we were behind them, we're with them. I mean, this pond belongs primarily to the town and under our jurisdiction. But CPC has the discretion to make that decision.
Stacy.
Stacy.
I talked to town management today about this. They're well aware of the concerns from CPC and from the Walker Pond group themselves. I know the select board are also aware. What I have been told is that it's a priority of the select board, but the change in funding hasn't been formally presented. It'll happen tomorrow night at the select board's meeting.
All right. And I think that's all that covers the CPC, unless some people have other questions.
Chris, I have a question. I didn't realize, so we're going to double the amount of money we put into the housing bucket?
Yes, it is going to be doubled from 11% to 22%, while
And-
all the other buckets will stay at 11%.
And
It's
Why
proposed.
would that-
Proposed, is being proposed, yes.
Oh, proposed, but why would that be? Just curious.
They feel that they're forecasting for the future, as a matter of fact, that they, compared to other communities that might go heavy into open space, and then other communities that go heavy into housing or historic, depending on, the towns that do have CPC, that they're looking how we do it as a 5-year plan of what we want to do in 5 years. They're looking on where housing is going to be in the next 5 years. So that's why they're kind of build up that bucket. So when projects do come in, they have the funds to, to do that.
And was most of the committee or all of the committee in favor of that?
Oh yes, I mean, it was a very well thought out presentation, and it meant very well, and could see very good results in that 5 years. I don't think it was done just because, oh shucks, let's do it. I mean, it was very well thought out, and it was a great job presenting it.
Okay.
I tried to get more money for open space, but they said no.
Okay. Matt, you have a
Yeah,
question?
just following on that, Chris, the cynical side of me
Mhm.
that says that the CPC is planning to fund the Avery building, and not Avery, but the
Emery.
Emery and the church. And they're saying we need more money for both of those. So we better start doubling down on the money now. That's how I read that.
Okay.
So they justified a future spend by knowing big projects are coming and that we don't fund for those. And they're assuming that those are going to get passed. Just one cynical view of
I don't know.
that raise, because those are two projects that are going to be extremely expensive.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily know that the whole town agrees that they should be funded. And
I'll be honest, in regards to Emery Grover, it's split. I mean, between the members, like some people think it should be a less amount that should be given. Some people think it should be, a certain amount. I mean, I think everyone's in agreement that, I mean, the building is horrible. Something needs to be done, but they're not willing to commit the whole 100% or whatever they're asking for. The one thing that was brought up that the school committee doesn't have a backup plan. That if say CPC doesn't approve the full design or a certain design for the Emery Grover, they don't have it in their line budget to pay for the other half of the project or the renovation. So
no,
say
I know.
we-
So instead of us going for an override
Mhm.
and putting the question up to where it should be, they're going to back channel fund it through the CPC, and it'll be less of a potential tax burden
Mhm.
on us, while at the same time, it will detrimentally impact our funding for open space and recreation.
It will do.
So this
it'll
is
go
sort
for
of
all
like
the
when
buckets.
but it's sort of
Yeah.
like when we found out that they were going to pay for a part of a building instead out of our turf funds. I mean, to me, Cindy, I see you nodding your head. I think you're agreeing with me.
Mhm.
This sounds like we're shuttling money around and pulling one over on taxpayers, to be perfectly honest.
Right. I totally agree, Matt. If I asked the question, I don't really understand why we would want to do that as a town, why we would want to double that bucket, the amount that goes in there. But, Kristen?
So they're looking to double the community housing bucket, not the historic bucket. I
I'm
just
sorry,
wanted
did I
to
say historic? I apologize. Community
I
housing,
just
not
wanted-
historic. My bad.
Yeah, so, and the reason for community housing that has been presented by the committee members that have done the research. So the only vessel that really can apply for that type of funding is the Needham Housing Authority. Needham Housing Authority is outside of the jurisdiction of the town, and therefore it can't bond its projects. So where we were able to bond Rosemary and bond the town hall, and potentially we could bond Emery Grover from either CPC or town funding. That option is not available to community housing, and their projects are just as expensive and just as cash heavy. So if we take a couple, the thought is if they take a couple of years, put in a big chunk of money to really work down some of the community housing situations that we have in Needham to support the projects that they would love to apply for, but they can't split the baby. Like there's no funding. They can't take $3 million and make it $6 million quickly, like the town could with a bond. And therefore, community housing, because they can't apply for the funding, because it's not enough funding quite yet, has missed out on opportunities to apply and put in applications. Whereas open space, recreation, historic have all continued to flow in because most of them are backed by the town, short of the churches. So that's more of where the thought process of helping the community housing of Needham. And I don't think it's not historic, so I don't think it was driven towards Emery Grover or the churches even. I don't think it had anything necessarily to do that, but that's the main conversation anyway. Of course, it still has to go. It has a public hearing in next week, and it has to go. The select board has to go to FinCom, and it has to go to the town floor. So it's a thought process.
No, thanks for that. I thought community housing and historic was lumped together. So I appreciate that.
Good
They're
catch
not
on that,
the-
Kristen. Thank you.
But they, there is a feeling that they are concerned about how much money will be needed from CPC if they do fund the Emery Grover.
Mhm.
I think, is it feasibility, Chris, or design? I'm not sure which it is, but I think it's
It-
feasibility.
Design.
Design.
I don't know.
This is for
It's
design.
design. Okay.
Yep.
It's a million something they're looking for, right? Is it,
Million three, I think.
right.
So yeah, I mean, they have talked with Dave Davidson that if they were to fund the full project, that you would have the town hall, Rosemary, and Emery Grover, and that would be eating up to every CPC fund that comes into town. And some of the projects that we have going forward over the next few years, you probably would not be able to do because you're giving so much to those 3 projects that you have on the books.
So the debt service for those.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on CPC? I mean, again, they're presenting tomorrow night to the select board, and then the public hearing 17th. And then I guess I spoke with Chris, and it seems like CPC will probably vote the week after that, the 24th, I guess, of March.
Let's
as
see.
to
I have the
what
meeting.
their
here.
advance-
Hold on a second.
Maybe I should ask Kristen if that's the right schedule.
It's
The
in-
31st, excuse me. We will vote on the 31st.
The 31st. Okay. And then from there,
Proposed as long as they get in front of FinCom. They can't vote until they've
Oh.
met with FinCom.
Which is the 24th.
they
That's
have
when we're
not-
meeting with, that's what it was. Yeah, we're meeting with FinCom on the 24th. And then we are likely to vote on the 31st.
okay. Well, that will be an interesting meeting with FinCom, I'm sure. There's
Mm,
always a little bit of a tug of war as to who has control of what. Anyway, hopefully our projects go forward. Fingers crossed for Walker
Mhm.
Pond, and especially fingers crossed for the other ones of our projects, which we think are not controversial, but you never know. Okay.
True.
Any questions or comments or? No, okay. Terrific. Thank you, Chris and Stacy and Kristen.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. Making up
Okay.
stuff.
So let me go back to our agenda. spring and summer programs, Stacy, I think we covered those. You complete with those, okay? And how is fall two going? Fall two is going as well as can be expected with
Great. It's going great.
great. Freaking cold for those poor kids. Who's ever outside, they've had a rough week or
Not this week. They'll be fine.
right.
It's supposed to be
Well,
60 tomorrow.
right. Well, at least, but it's been last week and the weekend freezing. Okay. Facilities, field updates.
Nothing not too much more than my report. Like I said, we are gathering the information. One of the things we're obviously getting more requests than we ever have on athletic type fields. The special event type things are going to start pouring in. They've already started the trickle. I would think we need to make sure that we talk to youth groups and organizations about being creative about using other pieces of green space and not just our squares and our diamonds, because a few of our fields are going to be slow to open. Some, like McLeod, is offline until we can take care of that. The school fields are going to get heavily used over the next few months because they'll go back outside for their classes as much as possible, I imagine. Especially around April-ish when the K-5s go back, there'll be more and more outside. So our fields are going to get pummeled, and the more all the groups can be creative and spread out, the better off we're going to be. Already looking at some of our fields, driving around, and I'm concerned, worried about the spring. I'm more worried about the fall. So we just have to be real careful and really pay attention to what's going on in our fields.
Okay.
So feel free to spread the word on that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Memberships at the pool for 2021.
This is all you.
I got nothing. I mean,
All you guys.
I don't know. Should we sell more memberships? Should we not sell more memberships? I'm at a loss as to what we should do. I mean, we have those people who bought last year. We rolled them over to this year. Do we not let anyone else in besides those people?
Do we have the data, Cindy, to make this evaluation? Like, do we know how many family memberships we have? How many we are rolling over? Like, I know, I don't remember seeing it in the report, but I'd love to see that. We should have that data before we make a decision, not just,
We can
do
get
it
that.
off of a willy-nilly, we
Right.
should,
Sure.
because I think
Mhm.
I think there is a mix of, maybe it's not on all or nothing. Maybe there's, hey, we can accommodate 20 more families and day passes or something, right? Or some mix of something, but unless we have the data to know, what our average run rate is. I know, Stacy, you're already working with the health department on what reality could look like in the summer.
It is, yeah, it's still currently same as last year, but I do envision that opening slightly. I just don't know what it looks like.
And I think we have to evaluate those scenarios. I think we need to build a plan, Cindy, that has, this is our scenario if we are same as last year, and this is our scenario if not. But the bigger challenge, frankly, besides memberships, is staffing. I'm less worried about should we sell more memberships. I'm more worried, can Stacy and team start hiring? Because summer jobs people are getting hired for summer jobs now. And if we don't hit the market or we attack the market, we're going to be behind the eight ball. So to me, it's it's more of a hiring issue than I am worried about memberships at this point.
Well,
Still,
like I said, go ahead, Cindy.
no, Stacy, you speak to it. Go ahead.
So like I said in the past, I'm less concerned about programs. Those staff will be easier to find and locate. It's more about the lifeguard because of the certifications. I have a meeting in 2 weeks because I am still a lifeguard instructor, so I can teach those certification and recertification courses. So I'm hoping that the Red Cross will give us more information, even though they're not giving anybody else more information. So I have that on the 24th. I have another meeting during our conference forget which day because it's a weird virtual conference. The Red Cross will be at that one. I've also been looking online. They are offering courses in some places. And what I've done is reached out to, I had a meeting with the HR director and the MECO director for the K-12 school. And one of the we always reach out to our MECO people to invite students that live in Boston to work for us. This year, there's a big push for them to consider working at the pool. We have pushed lifeguard certification classes because they can get certified in town or in the town that they live in, and then we will reimburse them. So I'm working pretty closely with HR and the MECO program to get some of our students that live outside of Needham to come in and work with us.
But Stacy, do you have approval to start hiring people?
Yeah.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we have approval. We are currently reaching out to our returning staff, but both last year, so last year's, and then we will also reach out to 2019 staff members that couldn't work with us because of COVID related reasons, but we are going to reach back out to them this year to see if they're available this summer. And then once we get a handle on how many we have in each bucket, pool versus programs, then we'll start to we're already pushing the MECO program out. The MECO director is working with me to do that. And then we'll start pushing it here as well.
Yeah, so Matt, I don't think staffing is as dire as you may have thought.
Yeah, no, that's
I do
great.
think, yeah. I do think
Staffing is okay. It's the certification. So Matt's not entirely wrong. Maybe just a little, Matt, just a little. No, it's more
I've
about
been
the
way off
certification.
base before. It's all fine. It won't be the first time.
It's more about the certification because like 3 weeks ago we couldn't run any classes, or if we could, then you had to bring in your own person to rescue. That seems to be changing slightly with more and more vaccines getting out there, and the fact that 16-year-olds can get vaccinated is going to certainly help us once they get into that bucket. Although whether they get vaccinated before June will be a miracle, but here's to hoping. However, the Red Cross has started to be more proactive in how we can run classes. And most of the classes will be a hybrid class where you do all the work on your own, on the classwork on your own, and then we come in and do the active rescues in person. So it limits our time together. So.
Okay, so good.
But-
So if you could get us information on what our memberships were last year, what type of membership, what the usage was, that would help us so that if we think there's going to be more space available, we could sell more memberships.
Right. My guess, and I have not confirmed this with Tim, but I will be surprised if non-residents are allowed this year, regardless of the regulations, because it just for tracking reasons alone, it makes life so much easier. But I don't know that for sure, and I will follow up with Tim and Tara. But Kristen was doing that slow hand raise thing, so I think she has something.
We sold 460 memberships that will be rolling over to the 2021 year. And they will be available for the entirety of the summer that we have. Last year with our setup, we saw a minimum of 343 of those families and 254 individuals. That doesn't math appropriately. However, a person with a family membership could have easily lapsed and come with their family. So it makes sense that there's more use than there are memberships just because of the type of use being so different. But we did sell 460. To Stacy's past points, it was difficult with our setup because of the limited pods that we had, where I don't think many members missed out on tons of opportunities. I think some probably missed out on a couple, and certainly they didn't get to go every day, which with a membership, usually they can go every hour of every day without a problem. So I think there's some considerations there, and with it opening up, it's a judgment call, really.
Okay,
That's the data.
great. Thank you. So, and in your opinion, we were pretty fully booked last summer. It was every slot was generally taken as much as could be.
I think the family swim is around 98% total. And most of the cancellations were due to weather or potential impending weather. Lap swim was slightly lower, but still around, I think 92 or 93. It was pretty high. And again, one lane or option per morning was typical to be missed, unless of course there was a weather situation.
Okay. Well, it was a very hot summer. It was a very dry summer, and there wasn't a lot to do. So people were around and were able to use the pool. They certainly had their availability on their side. Okay.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
think it's also, Stacy, so I just did quick math and I'm sure you're gonna, sorry, Cindy, this is to you. So that means about 75% of the families that bought a membership actually utilized it. Now, did they utilize it, to Kristen's point, as much as they would in a normal year? That's an argument that could be made. But we still accommodated 75% of all family memberships last year, which is remarkable for the staff. And if you really think about, like, out of 500 families, that's remarkable. And also goes to, even if we have a non-COVID, if we have another COVID summer, I would say then we shouldn't redo this freebie again, right? This is it. Because if we're getting some level of utilization, it's not the same as you would in others, you know?
Right, but I'd be interested in, I'm not going to ask Kristen to pull this up right now, but I'd be interested to dig into that and be like, how many of those families went to the pool one time? Right, so we hit 75%, but there were families that were like on it and they were there every 3 days. And how many of people just didn't? Either it was too much of a hassle or they got like COVID, all of a sudden they were like, we're just going to use it next year and we're just rolling it over. So, you know, while I think our membership prices are very ridiculously fair, to spend that and only go one time, I think is for multiple years in a row, I think will wear on people. I think 1 year, yeah,
No,
but
I
more
get
than
you.
that,
Yeah, the other thing we need to consider, I agree completely, Stacy. The other thing that we need to think through too, though, is if municipal pools, or specifically our municipal pool, has to have another COVID summer, whereas public pools like the BSC or Lifetime don't, we're gonna not get the same utilization. We may see an impact on the utilization because people will just go to those other pools, even though they have a free membership for the summer with us, they may never come because I can go to Lifetime or I could go to the BSC and I can swim every day because they're non-municipal and they don't have the same COVID regulations, right? I don't know how we make that assumption, but it is something that we need to think through competitively, Stacy, and something that may, you know, Tim's not going to care ultimately, but it is something that we do have to balance ourselves out on municipal pool versus, you know, an independent, you know, private pool, and what can they do versus what can we do, and what does that mean for us competitively?
Michelle?
It does feel like last year people weren't able to react as quickly, whereas this year people have been planning for a COVID summer, right? So I think that they have had a longer period of time to plan around, like they're probably assuming they're not going to be able to use the pool in the way that they could before, whereas last year everything was so up in the air, they didn't know. So there could be you know, less demand as people are trying to find different ways of spending the summer, or looking, Matt, as you said, at different pools that might have more options and increased use, the ability to use it. I just think I don't think we should restrict new memberships. I think we would just need to be very explicit about the challenge around booking spots, just being very transparent with people. And maybe it is limiting the cost. I think we would have to reduce the fee understanding that people are not going to be able to spend their whole week, all day, every day there. But if they know that there's an option to sign up for times and it may be challenging and you may not get a spot every day, I think we should be open to supporting people to sign up for the pool.
So you would sell additional memberships for
Yes.
2021?
But
Okay.
I think that
but
could
look
be-
at the rates.
I would
differently.
suggest looking at the rate. And because I think that there could be people that, again, have had their membership rolled over to this year and are not going to use it because they didn't have the experience that they wanted last year and they're looking elsewhere. So we might have different clientele who's actually coming. But I don't think we should be closing it, would be my view.
Okay, I think, Bruce, did you have a comment, and then Matt?
Yeah. So what I've heard recently is that the bookings down the Cape for vacation homes and other vacations is really increasing this year. Basically nothing last year. So I think a lot of people will be going away this year. So you may want to sign up more people so the families still probably will sign up, but I think a lot of families will be going away this summer because they're going to have that option based on, the recent projections as far as the COVID goes. And it's proving true because the bookings are hard to find because people are buying them up to get away this next summer.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. We're up at Lake Winnipesaukee in the summer, and right now it's crazy. You can't find a place, and you can't find a place to put your boat, and it's that's been going on since the first of the year. People are desperate, and we're still in March. Matt, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think my biggest concern would be, do we have the systems in place, both from a staff and an automation perspective, to actually accommodate a higher volume? So we know what the staff went through, and Stacy just said there are people who are on it every day. Like, I get my thing every 3 days, but if we say we sell another 200 memberships, what does it look like if I'm a new user and I can't get in and I'm not on it every day and I can't get in, what is our fallback plan, or how are we going to accommodate those people who are like, yeah, I signed up. I mean, you could almost go down the same path as vaccinations. I signed up for vaccinations, but I can't find anything or whatever. All of a sudden now we look terrible from a customer service standpoint because we are offering something and people can't get at it. So I'm not against doing it. I just don't want to kill the staff or make sure that we have a system that there is a new process that it's fair for all families to do it. So, hey, if you've been in a couple of times, then you got to let somebody else in, or some way. I don't know how to architect that. There's some way to do that. That's all.
Okay, well, I think to be continued. And if you have a deeper dive on any of that information, that would be appreciated. I don't know how much you can dive into that, but let us know. Anything else? Okay, so we kick that one forward also, which we do a good job of that. All right, action items. Special event approvals, none, I'm assuming.
Nothing yet.
Program
That's literally a placeholder until we're at that point.
Yeah, and program pricing, we don't have anything tonight, right?
We do not.
But we do have meeting minutes. Thank
That we
you.
do.
So in your packet were the minutes from February 22nd, 2021. Well taken minutes, I would say, from my reading. Does anyone have a question, comment, or like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Park and Rec meeting from February 22nd, 2021.
There,
Second.
second. Okay, thank you. Seconded by Matt. Any comments or discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, we will come to the vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of February 22nd, 2021, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you very much. So I think that is it. Our next meeting is everyone available, as far as you know, for the Field Summit on March 22nd at 6? Yes, fabulous.
Stacy,
Um,
one quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We are doing the field summit, and I know that we are sending an invite out to Edward Olson that he can join us. Can we also make sure that someone from the Memorial Park trustees is on this call? That I know that they are challenged with getting on Zoom calls, but can we get at least one representative? Because if we have this field summit without someone there representing them, we're all going to hear it. So if we can give that extra push to make sure someone's there, that would be appreciated.
I will reach out to Cecilia tomorrow, who's the staff liaison, and give her the date and time and heads up, and she can coordinate with whoever or
Perfect. Yep.
whomever,
Doesn't
either
have to be the
herself
chair.
or herself and somebody else. But
Mhm.
they were able to call in
I'll take it.
the last time and have a, like, so when we had the meeting or the dramatic reading, depending on how you look at it, of the Memorial Field situation, they called in and it was fine.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure.
So Stacy, they are all invited. That entire board is invited. It's
I will
not,
make sure Cecilia knows and
Yes,
whether they call in or
right.
whatever.
And you
They
make sure
are meeting at some
Okay.
point this month because I reached out to them to get on their agenda because some of the field requests are from Memorial Field and obviously they need to weigh in. And they are scheduled to meet. I don't know what that means as far as how they are meeting, but they do have a meeting on the books.
Okay, but if you would make sure that they are all invited, and I would make sure to include Mo Handel, because I believe he is a full-fledged member as the chairman of the select board.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, he
even,
has a seat on that board. Yes.
right, so certainly he can get into Zoom meetings, because I've attended a number of Zoom meetings with him. He is very,
His
Techno-
background changes frequently. He is good. Those
He is-
backgrounds.
he's actually pretty tech savvy. So I realize I skipped over topics for future meetings in my haste to get to the field summit date. Or is not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. So does anyone have anything for either of those two items? No. Unbelievable. Okay, that's great. So again, the next meeting is the 22nd, and then you can see the April dates. Hopefully those are good. And I think that is it, unless anyone has another comment, question.
I did
Thank-
check the meeting dates for upcoming meetings in April to make sure that they didn't coincide with any religious holidays or school vacations. If anybody else wants to just triple check the Passover situation, I'm not always positive on that one.
Oh,
I think Passover's
okay.
in March this year, so I think we're good.
Well, the town election is April 13th, so which doesn't really impact us from a RRC perspective this year. But
Okay.
Your 26th meeting will be a reorg meeting, Cindy.
Yes. Fabulous. Oh, wait, is that your last, when is your last meeting, Matt?
It would be the 12th then if the election's the 13th.
Oh, Matt, that's so sad for us. So
Nah,
sad.
you're happy to get rid of
Crying
me.
shame.
Yeah,
You're-
Chris is like, don't let the door hit you on the ass.
Okay, no.
We're
See ya,
still
Maddie.
recording. Kristen,
Madam Chair, I do believe that Matt is still a member until the vote is certified at town meeting. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think.
No.
No,
Yeah.
that's not
Nice
this
try,
one. That's
Kristen.
something else. That's something else then. My fault. My fault. Maybe I'm thinking of something.
And then there's
just
gonna
don't
be
wanna
a,
let you go.
is there
I
gonna be
just
an
don't wanna let you
insurrection
go.
at the town hall?
Action. I think he's got this date circled in red on his calendar. And so, all right, so then we'll have a big party with cake, I guess, on the 12th, even though we can't share it. No. All right. Yeah. We'll do what we can. We'll all wear
Oh,
hats.
you don't need to do anything. It's all good. Nothing
Okay,
needed.
well,
How
you
many
say
years-
so.
How many years, Matt, were you? Because you did 3 terms? But
I've done, yeah, I'm trying to, I can't even remember. When did Dave start? Because I came in the middle of Dave's first term.
I don't know. Dave was up with me. We always got elected together, but I can't tell
No,
you
no,
when it
no, no,
was,
no,
'cause-
Dave, well, yeah, right, but it was Tom Jacobs' last term. I came in the middle of Tom Jacobs' last term.
Well, maybe Dave wasn't with me, actually.
It was
'cause
the
Michelle was with
feasibility,
me.
it was the pool feasibility study. I want to say it,
Kristen, can
know.
you just tell them since you know?
yeah, really.
I don't know the exact year. I can definitely
Oh.
find it if you give me a second. However, Dave was with
Me.
Dave was with Matt, which is
Dave-
why Matt filled because you took over Matt Retzky's seat.
Okay.
Because it
Yeah, I
was
took
it a
over-
standalone seat this last time? No, Matt was standalone. You're right. So yeah, so Dave was with Chris.
Dave was
Yeah,
with
Dave was
Chris.
with me. Cindy and Michelle are together. Matt was by himself.
But I came in midterm because somebody
Like Chris.
left.
Yes.
Like Chris, because Chris
I
came in
became-
midterm because of
right.
Retzky.
Yeah, I came in midterm in the middle of, because someone left after I lost to Dave and Tom.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, anyway, it's been a long time. I was just trying to figure out if it had been 7 years or 10 years, and I really don't know.
I think it's between 7 and 9, somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's definitely more than 7 because I've been here that long and Chris didn't come until I started. So Chris is like 7. So you've got to be closer to 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
And Cindy with 16
You're-
or 15.
17.
Oh, God.
17. Only because Patty put that on Facebook recently. I don't know if you saw that. Patty put the plaque up
I know.
Right. and said, here are these people. And then somebody said, why are there no women? Right. And then Patty actually gave me a little bit of a compliment.
You're
Anyway,
just going after Roby's record, that's all. I know.
well, if I get
She
through
got
this,
it.
I will be at Roby's record. And then if I want to beat Roby, I don't know. Oh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Do we know how many people are running this time?
2 people for 2 seats. Chris Gerstle and Dina Hannigan is running for the seat that that Matt is vacating.
Who is it?
So
Dina
Dina.
Hannigan.
Oh, Dina. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know her through the youth lacrosse, girls lacrosse.
She coaches
Yeah.
high school, right?
Field
He
hockey.
does.
I'm
Field
sorry.
hockey.
Field
Yeah, I
hockey.
know her.
So, yes, and she started the program for the young kids. Kristen.
Mr. Tulin began on the commission in September 23rd, 2013.
Ouch.
Third
7 years.
Oh,
So-
he's
Oh,
kind of
just
a
over 7,
newbie.
almost 8. Mhm.
newbie. Wow.
And
Well,
how long does it take to get the assistant director's position filled? When's that
Oh, I
gonna?
thought you were like applying for a second.
No,
No.
I have a full-time job plus.
We are slated to do second round next week. My hope is that we'll have third round the week after that, third and final round the week after that.
So
I
what
keep
month would
telling the
that-
applicants I want somebody in place no later than April 15th.
great.
They can pay your tax bill then.
Yep.
Or
Okay.
Chris will pay it because he's happy to lend.
I do. I just got money to throw around.
All right. Well, thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
some.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your input and have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.